One sentence can decide whether this police encounter stays calm or turns into a case that follows you for years. And if you say the wrong thing in those first 5 seconds, you may give away rights you never meant to lose. Pause. Quick question before we continue. Are you subscribed? Because what I'm about to reveal could save you from legal trouble when stress is high and your brain is moving fast. Hit that button now, because smart gun owners stay ready before the moment happens, not after. Now, let's get into it. If a cop looks at you and says, "Stay right there," the 3 words I want you to remember are simple. Am I detained? That's it. 3 words. Not a speech, not an argument, not some internet tough guy line. Just a calm, clear question that tells you what kind of encounter you're really in. And trust me, that matters more than most people realize, because most people think every police contact is the same. It's not. Some encounters are just conversation. Some are brief detentions. Some become arrests. And if you don't know which one you're in, you can make a bad decision fast. Here's what just happened when the officer said, "Stay right there." He may have meant, "I'm talking to you for a second." Or he may have meant, "You are not free to leave." Those are 2 very different things, but in the moment they can sound exactly the same. That's why "Am I detained?" matters so much. It forces clarity. If the answer is no, then the encounter may be voluntary. That means you may be free to leave. If the answer is yes, then you know this is not a casual chat. Now you stop trying to explain. You stop trying to charm your way out of it. You stop volunteering details. And you start acting like someone who understands how the real world works. Let me break this down for you. Imagine you're walking out of a gas station late at night. You have your legal carry gun on you. A patrol car pulls up. An officer gets out and says, "Hey, stay right there." Your heart jumps. Your mouth goes dry. And now your next sentence matters. Most people do one of 2 bad things. They either start babbling or they get rude. Both can hurt you. The babbler says, "Officer, I didn't do anything. I'm just coming from work. I have my permit. I always come here. I live down the road. I have my gun, but it's legal." That person is handing over information before even knowing what the stop is about. The rude guy says, "I know my rights. You can't tell me what to do." That guy creates tension for no reason, even if he's legally right about part of the law. The smarter move is calm and simple. "Officer, am I detained?" That question does 3 things at once. First, it tells the officer you understand the difference between a voluntary talk and a detention. Second, it keeps you from rambling. Third, it gives you a clean path forward depending on the answer. Now, this is where it gets interesting. If the officer says, "No, you're not detained," then you can politely ask, "Am I free to go?" And if the answer is yes, leave calmly. Do not suddenly spin around. Do not make fast movements. Do not reach toward your waistband. Just leave like a normal, calm adult. But if the officer says, "Yes, you are detained," then the game changes. At that point, you do not argue on the sidewalk. You do not argue about constitutional law. You do not start proving your innocence. You do not try to educate the officer. You comply with lawful commands, keep your hands visible, and you stop volunteering information. That's the part nobody talks about enough. Knowing whether you are detained is not about winning an argument. It's about changing your behavior to protect yourself. Because once you are detained, what you say can absolutely be used against you. And no, police do not have to read you your rights the second they start talking. That shocks a lot of people. They think no Miranda warning means their words can't hurt them. Wrong. If you start talking freely, you can still create huge problems for yourself. And for gun owners, the risk gets bigger. Why? Because a simple street contact can quickly turn into questions about weapons, permits, where you're going, and what you were doing. Whether you've been drinking, whether that gun is loaded, and whether you told the officer soon enough under your state's laws. Here's what most people get wrong. They think honesty means telling everything immediately. But the law does not usually require you to give a full life story. In many situations, the smart move is to identify yourself. Identify if required, comply with lawful orders, and say as little as possible beyond that. That does not mean be hostile. It means be careful. If you're finding this helpful, imagine what you'll learn in my next video about the 5 words that protect you when cops ask about your gun. Subscribe so you don't miss it, because these small phrases can make a huge difference when pressure is high. Now let's go deeper, because the words, "Am I detained?" are only step 1. The second thing you need to know is what happens after the answer. If the officer says no and confirms you're free to go, leave. That sounds obvious, but people mess this up all the time. They stay, they keep talking. They ask 10 more questions, they try to clear things up, and 5 minutes later they've turned a voluntary contact into a fishing trip. Don't make that mistake. A police officer may approach you and ask questions even without arresting you. The key issue is whether you're actually free to leave. That is why your question matters so much. It cuts through the gray area. Now let's talk about traffic stops, because this is where gun owners get into trouble fast. Imagine you're driving home. You get pulled over for a broken taillight. The officer walks up and says, Keep your hands on the wheel and stay right there. In that setting, you're basically dealing with a detention already. A traffic stop is not a casual parking lot chat. So yelling, "Am I detained?" in a sarcastic tone is not going to help you. You already know you're not free to drive away. So what's the lesson? Context matters. These 3 words are most powerful when the situation is unclear. Sidewalk, parking lot, store entrance, front yard. Passenger encounter, casual questioning. That strange middle zone where people freeze up and accidentally talk too much. But even during a traffic stop, the same rule applies. Know what stage you're in and adjust your mouth accordingly. If you're a driver, you may have to provide your license. Provide license, registration, and proof of insurance. If you're carrying, your duty to inform depends on your state. Some states require prompt disclosure. Some do not. That means you need to know your own state law before the stop happens. Not while red and blue lights are flashing behind you. Here's a hypothetical example to explain this. Let's say you live in a state where you must inform an officer that you're carrying during a traffic stop. If you stay silent about the gun when the law requires notice, that can create a separate problem. But if you start blurting out extra details like where you were carrying earlier, or how many guns are in the car, or how your buddy left a knife in the back seat, now you're creating new risks that were never necessary. See the balance? Comply with what the law requires. Do not volunteer what the law does not require. And if the officer starts asking broader questions that go beyond the basic reason for the stop, that is when calm silence becomes powerful. A simple line like, "I choose to remain silent," or "I want a lawyer," may matter more than your 10th attempt to sound cooperative. But wait, there's something even more important. Being detained does not automatically mean the officer can search you however he wants. And being armed does not automatically mean he can treat you like a criminal. There are legal standards for stops, for frisks, and for searches. A brief detention is not the same thing as an arrest. And a frisk is not supposed to happen just because an officer feels curious. Now, a quick legal note. This is educational information, not legal advice. Always consult an attorney for your specific situation. That disclaimer matters because local laws can change and details matter a lot. For example, if an officer has reason to believe someone may be armed and dangerous, that can affect whether a pat-down happens. But many viewers confuse that with a full search. Not the same thing. And many people think if the officer says, "Just talk to me for a second," they have to stay no matter what. Also not always true. That's why these 3 words are so powerful. They force the issue into the open. Hey, 73% of people watching right now aren't subscribed. Don't be part of that group. Join the gun owners who come here to learn this stuff before they need it. Click subscribe. Because being informed beats being surprised every single time. Now let's talk about the mistake that gets people jammed up most. They think if they are innocent, talking more will help. I get it. That instinct is human. You want the officer to know you're one of the good guys. You want him to see you're legal, respectful, and not a threat. But the truth is, stress makes people talk badly. They guess. They misspeak. They contradict themselves. They say, "I think," when they mean, "I'm not sure." And later, those shaky words get written down like solid facts. This is the part that shocked me when I first started seeing these cases up close. People rarely talk themselves out of trouble, but they very often talk themselves into it. Let me give you another example. Imagine you're standing outside a friend's building. You legally carry. Police roll up because someone called about a man with a gun. The officer says, "Stay right there." And now if you panic and say, "I have a permit, it's legal, I wasn't waving it, I only touched it because my shirt got caught," you may have just created 10 new questions that did not exist 5 seconds earlier. Instead, keep your hands visible. Stay calm. Ask, "Am I detained?" If yes, then you comply and stop talking beyond what is legally required. If no, and you're free to go, then go. That clean split matters. Here's the crazy part. A lot of police encounters live in that fuzzy zone where officers are gathering information. And people are volunteering way too much. The average person thinks silence looks guilty. In reality, careful silence is often the most mature move in the room. And let me say this clearly. Silence is not defiance. Defiance is arguing, refusing lawful commands, making sudden moves, touching pockets, or trying to walk off before things are clear. Smart silence is calm, respectful, and controlled. You can say, "Officer, I'm not resisting." You can say, "My hands are visible." You can say, "Please tell me what you want me to do." Those lines lower tension. Then you ask the key question when it makes sense. Am I detained? Now, if you're a passenger in a car, people get this wrong too. They assume they must answer every question, just because the driver got stopped. Not always. Passengers still have rights. But again, don't freelance. Don't freelance based on half-remembered clips. Stay calm. Ask if you're free to leave when appropriate. Follow commands about safety. And one more warning for gun owners. Never reach toward your firearm to show the officer where it is, unless specifically instructed and unless it is safe to do so. That should be obvious, but people do dumb things when nervous. If you must disclose a firearm under your state law, use your words first. Let the officer control the next step. Most people think the danger is the gun itself, but the bigger danger is confusion. Confusion about whether you are free to leave. Confusion about when to speak. Confusion about what your state requires. Confusion about whether being polite means being chatty. That confusion is exactly why I want you to remember these words. Am I detained? Not because they are magic, not because they guarantee the officer backs off, not because they replace a lawyer, but because they help you identify the moment you're in before your mouth makes it worse. Laws change fast, court rulings change fast, and the little details can change how a stop plays out in your state. Subscribe now so you don't get caught off guard, because the next video will break down exactly what to say when an officer asks whether you have a gun on you. So here's the takeaway. When an officer says, "Stay right there," don't panic, don't argue, and don't start pouring out information. Ask one calm question. Am I detained? That question helps you figure out whether this is a voluntary encounter or a real detention and shapes what you say next. Pause. If this kind of plain English legal breakdown helps you feel more prepared, subscribe right now and stay with this channel. My goal is simple. Help you protect your rights, protect your freedom, and make better decisions under pressure. And one last reminder, this video is general education, not personal legal advice. Talk to a qualified attorney in your area. GitHub.